feel free to subscribe. Well, it's a Friday and I'm thinking about what to do over the weekend, whether it's a game or painting or both. And I guess just like most wargamers, they'll look into the various boxes and find lots and lots of unpainted figures, stretch the head a little, and maybe it's just easier going and putting a game out or what have you. But in truth, I think a good discipline would be just to make sure that there's a bit of painting that goes on all of the time. Otherwise, these figures are going to forever remain in the boxes and not see the light of day. So, how do we pick? Well, looking out of this group here, it's quite interesting. There's some French cavalry which I haven't used in chain of command, and also I know that the French are very short of anti-tank guns, etc. There's also a 75mm there, I think, as well as like an anti-tank rifle. So let's have a think and choose some figures to paint, and then go through a process about how quickly we get them onto the table. Well, I think I'm going to opt for some anti-tank guns for the French, but the things that I seem to be short of playing chain of command is crew. When you're doing it for bolt action, you get sort of 3 crew as opposed to 5 or 6. But I've noticed that I've got some casualties here as well, which are pretty useless to me. So I think I might do some bit of conversion as well and see what I come up with. So yeah, a couple of guns and some crew. Right, to split things up made a bit more sense. I've got the 75mm over here and the 25mm over here. And what I like to do, first of all, make the whole thing easier, is to actually base them. I know people prefer potentially to paint them separately and base them last, but that's the way I do it. Makes it easier, and for me, I get a good understanding about what we're trying to do with it. An hour in, and I'm quite pleased that I've now put this together, and so we know what the model is going to look like. I haven't glued everything to the base, although I might do that. But yeah, I like the feeling that after an hour or so, you're making some good progress. Halfway through really here with the 25mm, but I'll base it onto this base in a second. It's a mixture of super glue and PVA, and yeah, it's always good to feel like you're making headway. Well, this is the following day, and in actual fact, it's been very productive because I've decided just to base a lot of different stuff here. So we've got things like a sniper, a 50mm mortar. We've got some officers in there, as well as the 75mm gun and the 25mm. So yeah, there's a lot put together, as well as some horses as well for the French cavalry. Well, just an hour or so, and then got the primer on with the grey, and then added some of the green and the black on the two guns. So yeah, well underway. Right, 3 days in, and it's been a bit of a challenge in terms of the French uniform. There seems to be so much difference, whether they are sort of green or brown or what have you, and the paints that I've bought and put together again seem to bring out really a bit of different output. However, I then took a look at some of my existing figures and thought, well, realistically, there's quite a lot of difference there as well. I put out inquiries through various groups from Facebook, etc., and actually feedback generally was just paint what you like, what you think looks good. So I thought the most sensible thing, particularly as I put it on a video, was really to follow the guidelines, which is the Warlord guidelines of the various different paints here. This format that I use, this type of paint, and yeah, hopefully at the end of it it'll look good. And the idea really is just to get them onto the tabletop. So yeah, there is I guess a bit of inconsistency in my own forces, but you know, that's okay if I'm happy enough with the model on conclusion. So right, on with the painting. Well, it's a bit more progress, I think. It's only another hour or so in terms of the actual painting, but I was a bit fed up, to be honest, yesterday, because I wasn't so sure about really the colour of the French. But actually, at the end of it, I think that they're coming out okay. It's gone quite brown. This is before other washes, etc. I'll put on, and yeah, I think once you've also added a bit of flesh colour and added the helmets and things like that, it always makes it look looks a bit better and nearer completion. So sort of midway point maybe, yeah, beginning to look okay. Well, despite my reservations, I've now got pretty far on here, and the only thing we need to do is just some highlights and some details, and we'll have the remainder of the varnish to put on. Ultimately, the French have come out, once you've added a wash, as quite a dark brown, which I think is authentic to the uniform. So yeah, I've got the 75mm gun, the 25mm, and the other crew as well. So yeah, it's getting closer and closer. Okay, well, we're very far on the way to completion, so I thought it might be useful just to go through the different paints that I've used. So if you wanted to follow the same pattern, then great. But yeah, let's try and show what we've done. So okay, so I'll just literally pick these up, and you can take the numbers from there. So the 879. Okay, it's the main of it is the Vallejo paints, but this is the major uniform, the trousers, the jackets, etc. Followed by this one, 872, which is the boots. So the boots, rather than black, are a sort of chocolate brown is the colour. The next, although this is supposed to be for the webbing by the Warlord list, actually I've used this at the back. So all of the sort of pouches here down at the bottom, I've used that with this this lighter colour. Okay, so that's the 821. Then I've used this particular mat. Now I'm not really suggesting that you try and follow exactly what I've used, but for this, I've used this for the webbing. It's a better colour. It offers a better feeling for me in terms of what the colour is. So really, I'm just pointing out that both for this and for the previous one, for the 821, you might just think it just looks better ultimately with what you've got. But quite a lot of the times through this process, I've tested colours, put different ones on, etc., just to see what works and what doesn't. Then we've got the 888. Now that's the olive green for the helmet, and I've used that for both of the artillery pieces, the 75mm and the 25. Moving right along, this one is the orange ochre, the 824. Now that one is at the back of the backpack there. So I'll pick this up and see if you can see it more clearly. You can see it's a slightly different colour there from the lower packs, and it offers quite a nice contrast. So that's that colour. Then we've got 880, which I've used for the putties. Now, realistically, I think, and certainly on the tabletop, your chances of seeing the putties, which are basically between the boots and the rest of the uniform from the jacket, I think is very slim. But at least I'll know it's the right thing there. Quite obviously, this is the flesh colour. I'll put a highlight on that. So this is the one that I've used. Black, self-explanatory. Use that on the tyres, but then on top of the tyres, I've then used this metallic colour. So on the back here of the 75mm, it just gives a little bit of a tinge of a highlight along the ridges of the tyre. And I've also used it on the shell cases here at the bottom. And I've then used again here another metallic colour just to heighten some of the colours. Again, used it on one of the rifles, touched up on the shell cases, and also the shell that this particular figure is holding. And then this is the thing that for me makes the whole difference, which is the shading. I know, see in other videos, that lots of people use different ones, you know, different shadings. I just use the whole thing right across the artillery and indeed all of the figure. It gives it a lot of depth. It makes it darker is the key thing. I was really quite frustrated at the start of this video. You'll have seen it, that I didn't really feel that the French uniform was dark enough, and I thought it was very, very light. But actually, this gives it a really good depth, and yeah, I suppose overuse can mean that you know, you lose the highlights. But what you can do is paint on top of that if you wish to get it, you know, the highlights with it, making it a better looking figure. That's entirely up to yourself. And I will finish. I haven't done it yet, but I'll finish with this particular matte varnish, whether I put 1 or 2 coats on. And what that will do is it will take away quite a lot of the shading, the sort of shine, if you like, off the shading, and give it a better finish. Then once I've done that, I'll work on the base. So you can see that on the figure, you can see that green at the bottom of the soldier. What I want with each of those is that to be covered, so that it looks a much better model, as if it's sort of naturally standing there next to the artillery. Okay, so that's where we are so far. And this is more or less the finished model. Here's the additions that we've made in terms of the base, and improved it, etc. We've got the varnish on, and yeah, it's made quite a nice model in conclusion, and I think this would work pretty well. Get it up on the tabletop. So that's 6 days in total to get it to this stage, and yeah, I think it's ready for a game of Chain of Command. Thanks for watching, and subscribe on the bottom right.